G'day people, this is Sharpino here, bringing you guys another video talking about Pokemon Pocket. Apologies that it has been over a week since my last video. Honestly guys, just between work and just being a little bit burnt out from Pokemon Pocket. But I'm back though, so don't think I'm sick of the game by any means. I did finally get myself to Master Rank, if you guys haven't saw my last community post. But I got myself over Master Rank, played a few battles afterwards, and then I was like, you know what? I hit Master Rank on Pokemon Pocket. I'm good. I'm good to just sit on Master Rank right now. I wasn't planning to get in like the top 1000 or top 100 with the Master Rank. It's a very grueling process, let's put it that way. And look, would I do it again just to get to Master Rank? Yeah, I probably would. To get to the very top though, yeah, no, I'm okay with just making it to Master Rank, getting the emblem and leaving it at that. Plus getting the hourglass prize for that. I'm cool with that. Okay, so great. All right, now let's talk about what we're here to talk about. The new pack that's coming out next week, Celestial Guardians. So this pack, or these two packs, because there's one for Solgaleo and there's one for Lunala. It's all about Stage 2 evolution. So basically boosting power for Stage 2 evolutions, more Stage 2 evolution lines, being introduced to the game. So I'm very interested to see what this new pack can do for the meta, because as it stands right now, if you guys haven't seen the latest like tournament listings and all that, and all the deck power-ups and all that, like which deck's the best, as no surprise, Giratina Darkrai is like ranked #1, and by a long shot, you know. So I'm very interested to see what this new packs will do for the format, and what it would do for current Pokemon that, you know, aren't seeing too much playability, but now with these new cards coming out, like Stage 2 decks like Greninja, even some people were saying like even normal Pidgeot from the very first set actually gets a boost from this. And seeing some of these cards we're going to discuss, you can definitely see the potential. So you'll obviously still know when that card's coming up, but let's just talk about some of the cards that we saw in the 48-second video that was released from Pokemon. So the very first Pokemon that you saw as far as the new the key cards is Solgaleo EX. So Solgaleo EX is a Stage 2 Pokemon. It has 180 HP, so that's a lot of HP there. It has the ability called Rising Road, which is if this Pokemon is in your bench, you can swap it to your active Pokemon. So this is actually pretty good because it basically means that it's a free retreat cost. So if you have a Pokemon that's got swapped in by Sabrina or Cyrus that has a high retreat cost, then this ability can basically allow you to swap out your Pokemon without having to pay any energies, right? So basically, it's like the old trainer card switch, but it's the Pokemon's ability, not a trainer card, right? And then it also has the, what is it? It has the ability, oh sorry, the attack, sorry, it has Soul Breaker, which does 20 steel energy, it's 2 steel energy, my apologies. Does 2 steel energy, 120 damage, and it does 10 recoil. So for only 2 energies to do that much damage, that's actually pretty crazy how like how quick that is, but also like at how, you know, it only requires 2 energy to do 120. So once you get it out, it's actually pretty fast, which, you know, can be great setting up with Pokemon walls like Druddigon, and can be splashed in with steel decks, you know, like Skarmory, you know, maybe even Probopass if you really want to, kind of like stall until you have Solgaleo ready to go. But then it could also be splashed with Giratina, which again, let's be real, Giratina really can splash with anything. So would you see a Giratina Solgaleo deck? Maybe, who knows? But that's the first card that we have here, which actually, like I said, pretty good card to start things off with, and I can definitely can't wait to see some of the deck combinations that we can see when this comes out. Now, going to the other side of the pack, so we have the Solgaleo pack, and then we're going to have the Lunala pack. So the key card for that is Lunala EX. So they're both of the same sort of lineup, where they have Cosmoem, and then it's got these two as the final two. So this is also Stage 2, 180 HP as well, and has the ability Psychic Connect, which does, once per turn, you can move all Psychic Energy from one of your bench Pokemon and move it to your active Pokemon. Now, this is going to be insane with Giratina, without a shadow of a doubt, because with Giratina setting up with its Psychic Energies in the bench, this could be just basically free energy to give to your active Pokemon. So, if you have a Pokemon that doesn't require specific energies for their attacks, and you can run like a specific type energy from your deck to play out, then this can work tremendously well in just getting your Pokemon set ready to go. So things like Mewtwo, things like even Darkrai, or just like I said, just big Pokemon that just require 1 or 2 certain energies and then the rest colorless. This can just work so well as a combination between the two. And then it has an attack for Lunar Blast, which is 100 damage for 1 Psychic and 2 colorless, which isn't too bad for 3 energies, but obviously when it comes to attacks, it could be a lot better. But you never know, there could be support in this pack that could actually boost this. So, yeah, but like I said, that ability with Giratina and other Psychic decks, I could definitely see this becoming well. And also, actually I thought of this as well, it could make cards like X-Speed and Leaf have more usability, because it preserves the energy so that you can basically transfer from Pokemon to Pokemon for this ability. So again, I'd be very interested to see the combination of this, and you know, I guess, you know, with Dawn as well, that could be another thing as well, but I guess that does kind of what, you know, Lunala's trying to do here. So those are the 2 main cards, and obviously they're going to be the gold cards for this, for each pack. And I'd be very keen to see what the full arts look like from this. Like the full, if they're going to both have their own individual, what's it called? The explorative art sort of formats. All right. So those are the 2 cards. Now let's have a look at some other cards that we saw in the ad. So next we have Alolan Marowak. So we have, this is for the Alola region, if you guys haven't guessed that by now, which is Generation 7. I was very surprised that they did not go to Johto. A lot of people assumed that Johto was going to be next, because we went from Gen 1, then we went to Gen 2, then we went Gen 4. Actually, no, to be fair, Gen 2, not really Gen 2, I mean, it had Mew and a few other cards, but it wasn't like overly Gen 2. Like we were thinking, because we had a touch of Gen 2, maybe we'll get the rest of it in this format, but then we got Gen 4 instead. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyway, so, Alolan Marowak. So, 110 HP. It's got an attack called Burning Boomerang, which is an attack that does 70 damage for each heads that you flip for this. Takes 2 fire energies and 1 colorless. So, an additional effect to this. So, it's basically like it's like Marowak EX, but it's not an EX and it's less HP. Now, it does require a bit more energy to make and does less damage, but this is the extra effect of this attack. If you toss heads, if one of the 2 cards is, one of the 2 coin tosses are heads, then the target is burned. So basically, if you flip 2 heads, that's 160 damage right there. That's 140 plus the 20 damage of burn at the end. And if they can't heal that burn on the next turn, then that's 180 damage right there and then. So, you know, not the biggest fan of RNG cards. I actually put out, someone was talking about the other day about, you know, Team Rocket Grunt and how irritating that card is, and I 100% agree. Cards that rely solely on RNG like Misty and Team Rocket Grunt, I'm not the biggest fan of. Only because they could be such game-changing cards, and when you get flipped like 3 or 4 heads from a Team Rocket Grunt, you really want to just put your head through your phone and say, what the hell is that, you know what I mean? And I've been on the receiving end of that, and I've almost said, like, why is this card a thing, you know? So, it does take a bit more energy to build on this card, but, like I said, the fact that, you know, like I said, it does inflict burn, so it can do more damage. So, look, even like I said, at best case scenario, it can do 160 damage, but obviously you're playing with RNG here, so if you want to have a bit of a gamble with this deck, then go for it. But there is a card that is going to help this card out later on that I'll explain, that would actually make it a bit more viable. Alright, so we'll talk about that when we do see it. So that's Alolan Marowak for us. Next, we have Alolan Raichu EX. By the way, guys, I love Alolan Raichu. It is one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 7. Honestly, I think its design is really great, and the card art just looks immaculate. And I even saw the full art on the website, and my god, the full art, they've done it a justice. Like, it's so good. And its attack, believe it or not, is 3 colorless energies, and it's psychic, and it does 60 damage, and for every additional energy your opponent has on their active Pokemon, it does 30 more damage. So it's a bit like Gallade X, but the Pokemon itself has less HP, it requires 1 more extra energy to do the attack, but it does more damage per energy than Gallade does. So Raichu is doing 30 for each energy, whereas Gallade only does 20. And I could definitely see some setup with cards like, you know, Pachirisu. I mean, you can even go to Dialga if you really want to, because Dialga can just chop 2 energy straight onto it with no sort of extra requirements. Even Magneton, if you want to start stacking up energy decks and make it into like an electric deck. Honestly, like I can definitely see a lot of you know, decks that can work with this card, because like I said, no requirements specifically for energy, so this could really be splashed into any kind of deck, and it really punches cards that are energy hungry. So cards like Giratina, cards like Darkrai, cards like Gyarados, and others. So if you go up against Giratina and it has 4 energy on it, if you're just doing some quick math here, 60 plus 120, that's 180 damage. That kills Giratina one hit with Cape. You know, against Darkrai, 150. So if it has a Cape, it may survive if it has a Cape. But otherwise, like I said, it's just so good. And even against Gyarados, which has 180 HP, I mean, I just explained, with that plus weakness, it does 200 damage. Actually, no, wait. So, yeah, so it does 60, 180, it does 200 damage. So even with Cape, it would be a one-hit KO on the Gyarados. Like, that's crazy because of weakness. So, you know, I would love to get this card. If it's going to be one of my chase cards from this set, it would definitely be the full art Alolan Raichu, just because I love it so much. And like I said, cannot wait to see this deck, and I really would love to work this card, because I can definitely see this being used against decks that, like I said, where the cards need a lot of energy to make for attacks, then we go, righto, you set that up, and we'll set up the counter for that as you're doing that. So, great. Now, the card that is going to basically break this format, the next format, and basically define the entire format. I didn't think this card was going to come as early as it did, because this game's only been out for 6 months. But ladies and gentlemen, we finally have it. It is Rare Candy. Now, if you're not a TCG Pokemon player, okay, let me explain to you what this card does. Basically, if you have a basic Pokemon in play, and it does have a Stage 2 evolution, and you happen to have it in your hand, instead of you having to play the Stage 1 evolution and then the Stage 2 evolution, you play the basic, you wait a turn, and then you can play the Rare Candy and then evolve it without having to place down the Stage 1. So basically, if you have Charizard and Charmander, you don't need Charmeleon. If you have Froakie and Greninja, you don't need Frogadier. You know, so it basically cuts out the middleman, and it basically allows you to speed up and gain your evolution, Stage 2 evolutions quicker on the field. But they've actually chucked a few extra conditions on this card, which I think for this game is needed. So first off, it says that you cannot use it on your first turn. I think that's a good start. And second off, it also states that you cannot place it on a Pokemon that you just played. So, you know, if you're afraid of Sabrina, don't play the card. But at the same time, you know, if you have to gamble it to wait a turn so that you can play the Red Candy, then it is what it is, right? Now, I can definitely see a lot of Stage 2 Pokemon that are going to get a lot of benefits from this. I did mention some earlier, so definitely think cards like Greninja, that you can get straight into the bench, so you could use its ability to start stabbing for 20 damage. Regular Pidgeot from the very first set, where, again, 2 energy, 70 attack, and it can basically force your opponent to swap. Victory Bell, another Pokemon that, again, has that same ability, but you actually pick the Pokemon that you can bring out. So I can definitely see a lot of decks that would benefit from having this Rare Candy added. But obviously there's some that don't really need it, you know? Like, so you have decks like Magnezone. I don't think Magnezone really needs it, because they really need Magneton to really get the energy to build itself up. So maybe that won't be needed. There are a few other Stage 2s like Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. A lot of people think it's going to benefit, but unfortunately those 3 Pokemon all need a lot of energy and time to build. And unless you have, with Charizard with Moltres out, I can see that being useful. But with decks like Blastoise, I mean, you'd have to have Misty to kind of help you speed up on that. But Venusaur, the only way they could ramp energy is if they have Leafeon. So unless you're running like a Leafeon Venusaur deck, then I guess that's one extra way you could ramp energy. But otherwise, yeah, I just think that there are some Stage 2s that won't receive the same benefit as others. But definitely, it would definitely change this format. You know, I definitely feel like Rare Candy is definitely going to add more speed to this format, which is good in a way, but also can help change the format, which I think also is good as well, because the last thing you want to do is have all your players get burnt out by everyone playing the same deck, like Darkrai Giratina, which at this point in time, that's what it looks like is happening. So the fact that we're going to see a lot of different decks is good, because it's going to bring more life back to this game. Then we had a full art Lily, which I think we all agree the art looks pretty good on that. And it says that it will heal a Stage 2 Pokemon by 60 HP. So basically, it's a free heal for any Stage 2 Pokemon. So the only condition is that the Pokemon you're healing is Stage 2. So again, for all those stage 2 decks, it's just a free heal and 60 health. It's the highest healing card that we've had released to date. The only one that is close to that is Erica, but that's only for grass type Pokemon. So imagine if you're running this with like Venusaur or you know, any other stage 2 Pokemon like Victory Bell, you know, Superior. That's another one I actually forgot to mention. You know, you run, you know, Lilies and you run Ericas, and your Pokemon basically can't die. Like, it's absolutely crazy, like how, you know, how much of a buff stage 2's got from this. And look, it's good because, like I said, it's trying to promote people using stage 2 Pokemon, because, you know, we've had so many Pokemon that are just basic EXs, and it's running Rampart, Giratina, Darkrai, Arceus, Dialga, even Palkia. I mean, Palkia not so much, but you've got all these decks that, like I said, they could be better in the format, but the problem is the other decks just are too quick in preparing, or they're setting up more than one Pokemon at the same time. So at the very least, this is hopefully going to change how we, you know, view decks and how we format, I guess, battling and all that sort of thing. So again, looking forward to this. Now, there were a few other cards in the ad that do look promising. So the Alolan starters were at the very start of the video, and we only saw the basic Pokemon. We didn't see any of the stage 1 or stage 2 Pokemon, so I'm very curious to see, like, you know, Decidueye and Incineroar and why am I forgetting her name now? The last one, Primarina, that's it. So I'm curious to see what those 3 will yield. I wonder if one of them will be an EX, because, you know, apparently in the Triumphant format, you know, Inferno got an EX, but the other 2 did not. So I wonder if we're going to have the same thing happen where one of the stars gets an EX and the others don't, or if they're all going to get EXs, or none of them going to get EXs, and they're just going to be just plain basic Pokemon, you know? So I'm very curious to see that. We saw a few other cards as well from Alola. We saw some Oricorio cards. We saw Oricorio, the Psychic one and the Ghost one. And the Ghost one was interesting because it has an attack that does 20 damage, but if the Pokemon was knocked out on the previous turn, it does an additional 60 damage. So it's like Mars Shadow, but for Psychic. So it can be a good revenge kill on the next turn if you do run it. We didn't see any of the other Oricorios, so I'd like to see all the other ones, like the Fire one and the Electric one, and see maybe if they've got some unique abilities or attacks that we have yet to see. But then on top of that, we saw other Alolan Pokemon like Alolan Meowth, and some supporters that are from the main series. So we have characters like Mally and Lana and Sophocles and Ilima and Kiawe as well, also hitting certain Pokemon in this format. So again, curious to see what deck combinations will come out from this set, especially with those supporters that specifically focus on certain Pokemon. So Kiawe, for example, focuses on Alolan Marowak and Turtonator. Lana focuses on, you know, Araquanid, which is like, it basically does a full switch, like a Sabrina, basically. But I don't know if it's you choose or they choose, because it's not specific. It just says your opponent switches, so I think it's like Sabrina. If it's something like you pick the Pokemon, that would be a little busted. But again, it depends on how Araquanid is, because if Araquanid is not good, then you don't want to run it. Then you have Mally for Serena, for Shiinotic and all that, which is a free heal. It completely heals it all, but it removes all of its energy. So if Serena has like 1 or 2 energy attacks, I'm guessing 2 or 3 energies, and you play that card, then that could work well, again, with ramping things like, you know, Leafeon, something like with that. You got Sophocles, which is electric type, so there's a boost for Togedemaru, Vikavolt, and an Alolan. We can't see what Alolan Pokemon is. I'm trying to think what Alolan Pokemon that's electric that would work with it. But anyways, it does 30 damage plus on the next attack. So it's a bit like Red and Giovanni, but it does 30 damage. But again, it's only specific to those 3 Pokemon. So are we going to see some electric type decks that are going to benefit from this? And then we have Ilima, which returns 1 colorless Pokemon from your active back to your hand. So, you know, basically if your Pokemon is near death, you can just basically bring it back to your hand. So it's kind of like the Expedition card, the Budding Expedition card from Mew, which returns it, or Koga for Weezing, or Muck. So this can benefit a lot of decks, like I said, they run colorless Pokemon. So it can benefit Arceus, it can benefit from Pidgeot, it can benefit from, I don't know, what other normal cards are really good this format. They're the only two I can think of. But if we can get a lot of normal support, even Snorlax, I just love that one as well. So I'm very, very curious to see what these new cards would bring for us. Honestly, like I said, first with the arts of the cards, I'm looking forward to seeing those. And like I said, just interested to see where, as far as the deck building goes and the battling and all that, how much, you know, this is going to change the format. So honestly, I'm very excited for these new cards because, like I said, new decks to build, new decks to possibly take top spot. Are we all sick of Giratina and Darkrai? I can speak for most of us and say yes, I definitely am. Of course, I played Darkrai Weavile, so I wasn't too far off the perch there. Is it the best? Sadly, it is the most consistent deck, and that's why it's run so rampant in this format. So, unfortunately, yes. But again, let's just see what these new cards can do for the format. Will they shake the format? Or will they actually cement some of the higher tier decks into more of a permanent position because of the new support, you know? Are we going to see, you know, Giratina, Mewtwo, and Lunala decks? Are we going to see, you know, decks with like, you know what I mean, like Solgaleo with other steel decks like Skarmory that works, or Magnezone that works, just as a backup destroyer at the very end of the game? Who knows? But I'm very happy for it. I'm very excited for it. I'll be doing some card pack openings next week on the 30th when it does drop, so stay tuned for that video. I'll probably be doing 100 packs for both packs, so it may take an extra day to make because of that, but hopefully you guys will appreciate the wait and stick around, and hope you guys look forward to more Pokemon Pocket content. So if you guys want to comment on any cards that you're excited for, or any certain decks you guys want to see me play on this channel, leave a comment down below and let me know how you go, because as always, your support is greatly appreciated. And until next time I see you guys in the next video, stay safe, stay sharp, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.